Hi, everybody. Mike Beer here with your Sunday DRF race of the day out to California at Santa Anita for the race of the day on Sunday. It's the Grade 2 Summertime Oaks for 3-year-old fillies, mile and a 16th on the main track. Here is your field of 7, which is, of course, led by the number 1, Desert Dawn, coming off of 2, really, really good races. This filly is. She's going to take a lot of beating in here if she runs as well in this Summertime Oaks as she just did about 5 weeks ago in the Grade 1 Kentucky Oaks at Churchill Downs, finishing a really good third at a huge price. Much shorter price this time, but she is the horse to beat in this race. Before we get into the handicapping, remember to scan that QR code that you see on your screen right now, and you can take a look at the PPs for this race on your mobile device. Or you can go to the Race of the Day event page at DRF.com and you can view them there. Pretty good race here, though, the Summertime Oaks. Again, it's a Grade 2 for 3-year-old fillies. It's a field of 7, but I feel like, and outside of the favorite, obviously, Desert Dawn is the horse to beat in here based on her last couple of races. But even outside of her, there is some... The other horses aren't as accomplished as she is, but there's some potential in this race. Some horses who have a chance to turn out to be pretty good. And oh, by the way, there's another graded stakes winner in this field already, down towards drawn towards the outside in number 6, Under the Stars. So there's a lot going on here, and I feel like a few different horses could win. You don't have to just look at this race and concede it to Desert Dawn because she had just run so well in that Kentucky Oaks the last time we saw her. Before we move on and start talking about Desert Dawn a little more, let's look at the Timeform US Pace Projector, which isn't given an advantage to either front runners or closers in this race, but they do have 2 horses up on the pace together. One of those is the number 2 in this race, Ganadora. Listen, we'll see. It feels like she almost has to show speed in this race. She's 2 for 2 in her career. Both of those wins sprinting. They're going to stretch her out for the first time in this race, and we'll just see. She ran a 88 Beyer. Breaking her maiden first time out. That's when Bob Baffert trained her. Her second start came out of the Baffert barn for trainer Sean McCarthy. She won again. She barely got it done by a nose from just off the pace that day, and her figure regressed a little bit, but still, she comes into this race undefeated. You have to believe that she's going to show speed in this race. As is perhaps the other horse that the pace projector has up close, and that's the other Sean McCarthy horse who began her career for trainer Bob Baffert, and that's Under the Stars. She's already a Grade 2 winner. That was going 7 furlongs. She just missed in the Santa Isabel, going this distance 2 starts back. And, she's coming off of a pretty disappointing effort behind Desert Dawn in her most recent start. We'll see if she can rebound. She should show speed in here. Getting back to Desert Dawn, who is the horse to beat. Listen, she's obviously just really taken steps forward in her last 2 starts. And it feels like, just based on those races, she's the horse to beat. Let's take a look at her Santa Anita Oaks. This is 2 starts back, and she's a good price in this race. She's 14 to 1. A horse who, obviously came into this race with a little something to prove, and prove something she did, though. This is a very game performance, a new top buyer for her. Yes, she had a great trip in this race. They got out of the gate really well to get forward, and they set a perfect trip as 3-5 favorite Adair Manor, dueled with another quality horse and Ain't Easy. They went fast. They contested that pace the entire way. They set it up for Desert Dawn. And you just see, how game she is, because Adair Manor, who, listen, she's maybe gone the wrong way a little bit, but she, at this point anyway, she was a top racehorse and felt like she was perhaps going to be one of the favorites for the Kentucky Oaks. She didn't make that. But she's a good horse at this point, and Desert Dawn does eventually wear her down and pick up a really nice Grade 2 stakes win for her. And then, of course, as we've already mentioned, she came back a month later at that Kentucky Oaks and ran really well to finish third in that race. So she's in really good form right now. You have to take a much shorter price, 14 to 1 in that race. We just watched 50 to 1 in the Kentucky Oaks. Probably the favorite in this race, but she's the horse to beat. Ganadora, 2 for 2. Now with Sean McCarthy, they're going to stretch her out for the first time in here, and we'll just see, how she handles, the added distance and the step up in class. They paid a lot of money for this horse. She's a daughter of Quality Road. They paid $1 million for her. As a yearling, you have to assume that they based that mostly on looks. Her dam was a good racer. She wasn't a top class racehorse, but she won a lot of races. I think she was Grade 3 placed, maybe routing on the dirt. She hasn't really dropped much of anything. Ganadora is her best foal so far by quite a bit. She's run okay in her 2 starts. She's a horse who could certainly contend in a race like this, and you're probably going to get an okay price on her in here after being favored in her first 2 starts. We'll see how she does. I couldn't talk myself into her. I won't be surprised when she runs well, and I do think she'll show speed from that inside draw. Bicameral is the number 3, just coming off an absolute blowout victory over this track, going a mile back in April. Kind of just feels like she found the right field that day. She was 0 for 4 to that point. and in reality hadn't come all that close to winning in any of her 4 prior starts, although one of those did come in a grade 1 in her second career start. So listen, I suppose her original trainer, Richard Baltus, I'm assuming he had high hopes for this horse, and she finally put it all together last time. Again, it feels like she kind of found the right field there to win by as much as she did. The figure came back very, very slow at a 69, and it doesn't make her competitive in here. Kirsten Bach is the number 4, and I think this horse is really, really interested in this race. She just looks like a filly who has an awful lot of talent. There's a lot of turf in this pedigree, and you'll note that the only time she's won for 3 coming to this. The only victory did come on the grass. But man, she's run really well in her 2 dirt starts as well. And let's start with the turf race though, because it's the only win, and it's also a race at 1 1/8 over a distance of ground. It's the only time that they routed this horse. And we'll look at the replay of the first stretch run of that maiden win right now. This is back in early April. She showed speed from the start. She went to the lead, but she took pressure up front basically the entire way in this race. Just kept holding off the 2 to 5 favorite who was challenging her all the way around the second turn and then all through the stretch. And as you can see, Kirsten Bach is just not letting this horse get by her, this very heavily favored horse. Just holding her the entire way. I thought she was much the best in this race. Her 2 other starts are both sprints on the dirt, and I thought she ran well. And both of those are actually the 2 fastest races she's run. She came out of that maiden win that we just watched, cut her back to 7 in the Angel Flight on the main track, and I thought she ran really well again, and that's a race you can go back and look at. You have access to that replay in your Formulator PPs. They just took her back to last, sat in hand, while the eventual winner, Elm Drive, went to the lead, taking no pressure, and Kirsten Bach put in another really good finish. She was gaining ground with every stride late. It was just too late to catch that horse. I like her stretching back out. I don't mind John Sadler keeping this horse on the main track. I think she's a very interesting horse in here. We'll see what kind of price she winds up being. Empire Gal was also in that Angel Flight last time. That was right off of her maiden win first time out, which came in her only start as a 2-year-old last November. And she ran really well in that race, just sort of bearing down on the leaders in there, took over as they got inside the 8th pole, and she was in hand at the end of that race. That was a really good performance. She did not run again after that as a 2-year-old. They came back again in the Angel Flight on May 8th, and she ran fine in that race. She went favorite in there, so a lot of people liked this horse, heading into that race, and she's had a good trip. Wasn't any real match for Elm Drive on the lead, and then Kirsten Bach easily outfinished her for second. But listen, it was her first start off the layoff. She has a really big pedigree, and certainly a pedigree that suggests this added distance is going to be no problem for her. She's by Empire Maker, her dam, who only went 1 for 9 in her career. She's a sister to Champion Untappable, to Patio Prado. So there's a lot of distance in this pedigree, and she looked like a horse of some quality winning her career debut. She could easily take a step forward here. She's a dangerous horse. Under the Stars can win this race. She's the number 6. Listen, again, another horse that started out for Baffert, didn't break her maiden until her 3rd career start, but then she came right back and won a grade 2. They stretched her out in the Santa Isabel for the first time back in March. She ran okay in that race. She went off as the even money favorite. She got wired by a horse of hers who was a stablemate at that time, Anita. And I didn't think she had a huge excuse. She didn't run terrible. She didn't run great. They came back in the Santa Anita Oaks after that, her first start out of Baffert's barn. She didn't run well at all that day. She did stumble pretty badly at the start, and then she just never really got involved. It's probably enough of an excuse if you liked her prior to that, and there are ways to like her prior to that. I wasn't a huge fan of hers, and for that reason, even though you're probably going to get a better price on her this time, and she's certainly good enough to win, I didn't really want to go back to her, but she's a horse who could easily win this race. Lady T completes the field, the number 7, comes into this off of consecutive Beyer tops in the maiden ranks, a 6 furlong race, 2 starts back where she made the lead and then didn't hold it at the end and just got run down. That was first time Lasix. They came back, stretched her out to the mile for the first time in her most recent start in mid-May, and just destroyed that field. Won by almost 15 lengths, running away through the stretch. A pretty impressive performance at 1-5, a race that she was supposed to win, and she did improve again though, an 86 Beyer speed figure. It's not like she might have to do that much better to win this race. The Desert Dawn is going to be the favorite, tops a 90, and when she won a grade 2 starts back, she ran an 87. So Lady T feels like she's getting good at the right time, and her connections are now going to step her up here and take a shot at a bigger race here right off of the maiden win. Certainly not impossible in here, but I couldn't get there. I do think Desert Dawn is the horse to beat. I like her last 2 races. at a short price, I'm willing to bet somebody else in this race, and that somebody else for me is going to be the number 4, Kirstenbosch, as you can see right there as the picks go up. I just feel like this is a horse who has an awful lot of potential. I like her stretching back out. I know that she's bred for turf on the bottom of her pedigree, but she's run fine on the main track both times they tried, and I think she's going to handle this, and I think the added distance is actually a real benefit to this horse in this race. So I'm going to try to beat the favorite Desert Dawn with Kirstenbosch in your Sunday DRF race of the day. It's a pretty good one, though. You're out at Santa Anita Park for the race of the day on Sunday. It's race number 9. It's the Summertime Oaks, and the approximate post time is 8:03 Eastern Time. Good luck.